Wonderful. Thank you so much. So 10:34. I'll go ahead and do the Sanskrit, and then we can read the translation together. It's Murtyu sarva haraschaham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kirti shri vak chanarinam smritir medha dirti shama. So we'll go to the translation. We can say together, I am all devouring death.
I am all devouring death.
And I am the generating principle.
And I am the generating principle.
Of all that is yet to be.
Of all that is yet to be.
Among women, I am fame.
Among women, I'm fame.
Fortune.
Fortune.
Fine speech.
Fine speech.
Memory.
Memory.
Intelligence.
Intelligence.
Steadfastness.
Steadfastness.
And patience.
And patience.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Ki Jai. So, Prabhupada's purport: as soon as a man is born, he dies at every moment. Thus, death is devouring every living entity at every moment. But the last stroke is called death itself. That death is Krishna. As for future development, all living entities undergo 6 basic changes. They are born, they grow, they remain for some time, they reproduce, they dwindle, and finally they vanish. Of these changes, the first is deliverance from the womb, and that is Krishna. The first generation is the beginning of all future activities. The seven opulences listed: fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience, are considered feminine. If a person possesses all of them or some of them, he becomes glorious. If a man is famous as a righteous man, that makes him glorious. Sanskrit is a perfect language and is therefore very glorious. If after studying one can remember a subject matter, he is gifted with a good memory or smriti, and the ability not only to read many books on different subject matters, but to understand them and apply them when necessary is intelligence, medha, another opulence. The ability to overcome unsteadiness is called firmness or steadfastness, driti. And when one is fully qualified, yet is humble and gentle, and when one is able to keep his balance both in sorrow and ecstasy of joy, he has the opulence called patience, shama. Om Gyan Timirandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chaksharon Manitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam Namam Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Guru Prasad Swami Niti Namine Namam Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nivashesha Shunyavadi Pastatya Desatarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Krishna says, I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So before we jump into the purport, the devotee who spoke right before the kirtan, I really appreciated what she had to say about how the mantras changed her life. She previously had shared that she had hate and anger, and it takes a lot to openly express these feelings and realizations in a crowd of people. But that's the beauty of Krishna, is that it's not something we're holding for ourselves. It's not something that we should feel ashamed of, but when Krishna's touched our hearts, we now feel like it's our duty or obligation to share that with others. And that's when we start to get in touch, as you're saying, with the soul, with the spirit from within. Krishna's inspiring you to now share that realization on how the mantra has changed your life, and you're saying, hey, I'm ready to do this now. And then that's when Krishna takes over the driving wheel, so that's an amazing reflection and realization, and we should applaud you for that. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's very inspiring, and keep chanting, keep taking association with devotees. These things are very, very vital for us to continue to grow. So the times where we are struggling and we're having the most difficulty, and our faith is being tested, because we'll get into that in the purport as well, that's the time we have to take the most shelter, and we have to put the hand in the bead bag, and we may have to drive to the temple or to the program to really kind of nourish ourselves the most. Otherwise, we're just in survival mode, and we're living off of our own facility. Our cup is empty. So there's only so much we could do alone, but together things become stronger. Prabhupada says, actually, it's a Napoleon Bonaparte quote. I believe it was. I think it was him, or it might have been. I can't think of the famous Mongolian. Anyways, he said that when you have one arrow, you can snap it. When you have many arrows, you can't break it.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, yeah. So even Prabhupada's taking from these mundane, warriors or kings. It was Genghis Khan who said this. So Prabhupada's even taking the essence of these things and making them transcendental for us, which is what we can do at all times. So we'll now get into the purport here, where it says Prabhupada's not holding back, he's showing the intensity of Krishna consciousness, the intensity of the material world. So sometimes when we present Krishna consciousness, it's always nice to be balanced. We can show that intensity of the material world and the suffering and how difficult it is. And then we can show the beauty of what Prabhupada's allowed us to partake in, what Lord Chaitanya has allowed us to partake in. Are there any newcomers in the audience? Just curious. Anybody new? So it looks like everybody's pretty seasoned. So Lord Chaitanya is
we have one newcomer.
Okay, one newcomer. All right. So Lord Chaitanya is an incarnation of Krishna. Krishna was here with us 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He was also stealing butter and causing mischief as a youngin. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a golden avatar of Krishna who came specifically to help us, not only for that time period, 500 years ago, but also for centuries to come. Over the next 9,500 years, we're in that golden age of Lord Chaitanya, and he only comes once in a day of Lord Brahma, which is a lot of years and a lot of time. So we basically hit the spiritual lotto in the sense that we're getting an understanding of how to alleviate these symptoms of suffering in the material world. So you have Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, non-different. So back to my point was that there's an intense side of the material nature that we have to face. And then there's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. And there's the beauty of practice and Sangha and coming together. So it's always good to be balanced in both of these aspects, right? Because if we tend to just face and talk about the miseries of material nature, then sometimes it can be perceived, especially by somebody for their first time, as, wow, this process is just negative. You're just telling me my body is a lump of blood, flesh, stool, and urine, which is true. But then we have to go back to the other side of the spiritual world, which is filled with bliss, amazing prasadam, spiritual food, dancing, chanting, genuine relationships, because they're built and focused with Krishna in the center. So there's two sides, I like to say, to our philosophy that we have to express in a way that's palatable and in a way that's easy to digest, not only for others, but for ourselves as well. We don't want to burden ourselves. We don't want to put so much pressure on ourselves. Although that's there, we have to do what feels natural according to our ability, and then ask for that support from devotees to overcome obstacles. So Prabhupada's saying here, as soon as a man is born, he dies at every moment. How's that for an opener? Thus, death is devouring every living entity at every moment, but the last stroke is called death itself. Super intense, but very true. We can all agree with this. Last night we had a festival. It's a Jala Yatra. So Jala is like water, Yatra, it's a procession. So we do Rath Yatra, which is a very beautiful, amazing festival where we take Krishna outside and we put him on a cart. And then we put him in a place that's really congested with as many people as possible. Maybe it's downtown or somewhere. And this festival is celebrated all throughout the world. It's the world's oldest street festival. So we have one here where we do it at the park, and we get, maybe 600 people or so. But last night was our second Jala Yatra, where we have the good fortune of having a river walk downtown. And so we rented out a boat. And right now I'm just doing test runs, and there's about 20 of us on this boat, and they have all these amazing Christmas lights. This year, there was a good amount of people. Last year, we did it before Christmas, so there was way more people. Just along the sides, there's restaurants and bars and lofts and hotels and such. But this is one way to conquer death, to see the eternal side of ourselves, is by sharing Krishna. So we're going on our boat, and we had the good fortune of having Vatsal here. Vatsal Prabhu, who's a Prabhupada disciple, and he was chanting for nearly 2 hours straight. And we had our devotees on the boat, just getting absorbed in the Maha Mantra. We didn't stop. It was constantly, the vibration was going. And we looked at other boats, and they're just sitting there. And then we look at people on the sides, and sometimes you'd have a drunk guy dancing or a drunk woman dancing, and they're getting some benefit from that. Other people, you get to see, this is the beauty of Harinam, is you get to see all the intensity of the material nature, and Krishna puts us in what I call a mantra bubble. So one way for a devotee to kind of get out of this repeated cycle of death is by nirbandhe Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagyam uchyate. So we see everything in relationship to Krishna, right? So we got this boat. We have these facilities in San Antonio. We have this river. Let's put it together. Let's put Harinam on the boat. Let's purify the atmosphere as much as we can, so that way it becomes easier for us to penetrate our next go around, next time. So by then, now we see a few people were kind of familiar with us. The city was familiar with us doing this kirtan on the boat. So this yukta vairagyam uchyate is that we don't accept the boat or downtown for our own personal sense gratification, right? We don't accept anything that Krishna has given us for ourselves. We see that Krishna has given us this facility, so that way we can share Krishna with others. So in turn, with our time, with our finances, with our energy, as much as possible, as much as we can according to our ability, we utilize that in Krishna's service. We connect that with Krishna. And so this is when the ball really starts to get rolling. And this is when you start to live to give. Vaisheshika Prabhu has a really nice campaign, amazing devotee. We start to live to give. We start to see everything as Krishna's. And therefore that creates a sense of detachment. When we're detached, there's less struggle. There's less frustration. No expectations, no disappointments. Last night too, I'm just going to speak a little bit. We had this festival, and it was like sunny. The weather, it just started creeping in. This is what Krishna does too. The weather was clear for the past week, sunny, bright, everything. And then 3 days leading up to the festival, severe thunderstorms only between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. It's literally said that. So there was so much anxiety that I had. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was getting freaked out. But then I realized that's all a part of Krishna's plan. Sure enough, we get on the boat, skies are clear. There's no rain at all. They predicted heavy rainfall for the whole weekend after that, whatever. Nothing, not a drop. So Krishna says too that, no, Prabhupada says in the Krishna book, he says that if Krishna gives a benediction or opulence to a man who's praying for it, immediately he's going to forget his obligation to Krishna. So if you're praying to Krishna and you're just saying, oh, Krishna, like, give me money, give me this, give me that, whatever, and Krishna actually gives it to you, then, chances are you're going to forget about Krishna. So Prabhupada continues on and he says, therefore, Krishna does not offer opulences. He doesn't offer opulences to his devotees unless the devotee is thoroughly tested. That word, thoroughly tested. No stone unturned. No stone unturned. Krishna is going to test you over and over again. So rather, if a neophyte or devotee serves Krishna sincerely and at the same time wants material opulence, the Lord keeps him from obtaining it. So the whole point is that when we were going through this festival and all of a sudden this weather thing came down, part of me and my conditioning was getting super frustrated, so much anxiety, disappointment, lamentation, that it was actually taking away from my service of meditating on Krishna and how I'm doing this for Krishna and how we're just going to make the effort. Man proposes, God disposes, right? And that was my test. So even after so much endeavor, so many things that we've been meditating on for the past year of how to make this one better compared to the previous year, Krishna still will throw a little test at you. What to speak when we're all on this really beginning neophyte stage, even if we've been chanting for a few years, still there's going to be some tests, some difficulty. So to tie it in is that Prabhupada's given us a method of this yukta vairagyam, right? So that way we can connect not only the things around us, but our loved ones and ourselves and our energy and our time, our children, our family, everybody with Krishna. And so therefore, Prabhupada says this is how we become eternal. So yes, typically, the body is decaying at every moment, right? But we're eternal. We start to identify with that eternal aspect, who we are as a spiritual soul residing within the body. No longer are we men or women. We're connected to Krishna, or followers of Krishna. So the next part of this paragraph, Prabhupada's giving these changes of material nature that happen to every one of us, for the most part, is that we're born, we grow, we remain for some time, we produce, material nature dwindle, and then finally vanish. So depending upon our guna and karma, guna basically means the mode that we are in or that we associate with. There's 3 modes of material nature that are explained in the Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter. So there's the mode of ignorance or darkness. You think about things that happen at night. Sometimes people go out and they get a little crazy. Excuse me. There's the 3 modes of material nature. So you have tamas, which is the mode of darkness. So sometimes people go out, they do crazy things at night or whatever, intoxication, all sorts of stuff. There's the mode of rajas, which is passion. So think of somebody that's very passionate and eager to make that next profit or something, people zipping down the freeway at noon. And then there's the mode of sattvic, being sattva, mode of goodness, where you think about the early morning walks, having a little orange juice, reading the paper, doing some yoga. These are in the mode of goodness. This is the mode of goodness. But beyond that is becoming transcendental, right? So this is how we not only get through this repeated cycle of birth and death, but this is how we conquer it as well. So there's a really nice example. There's a nice analogy that Prabhupada gave with fruit, right? He says that a fruit, you may have like a flower, for instance, and it grows, and then it stays around for some time, like on a tree or a branch, and then it grows and it ripens, and then little by little it starts to decay until it falls from the tree, and then it decomposes into the earth, and then it leaves behind a seed, which in turn grows again and becomes a tree, produces fruits, so on and so forth. So it's just like this cycle. It's just like, how do we get out of this cycle, right? So similarly, like the fruit, we may leave behind in this material world progeny, many children, but we can't exist eternally within this material body because of these laws of material nature. So immediately, as soon as we come out of the womb, we're destined for material failure. It's just not going to happen, right? I was watching something the other day. I like to watch little videos every now and then on YouTube, just to kind of see how can this be used for practical reference when speaking about Krishna. And I was looking at these guys, and the whole thing was just like money, money, money. Like, it's all about making money, you know, like how much money are you bringing in? How much money are you profiting? And it gets super intense that you become so absorbed by these energies of Krishna, right? That you lose focus on actually what it is that needs to be taken care of. There's a famous example of the bird in the cage. My wife and I, we do these health and wellness workshops we're going to start doing. We did one at a big fancy hotel one time, and we couldn't go really into like deep philosophic Vedic Krishna consciousness, right? So openly, but we took those same principles. And there's a nice example of a bird in a cage. It's a very famous example that devotees give all the time. It's like you have this guy, and he has this beautiful cage with all these different gemstones, and it's like amazing. It's shining, it's golden, it's just glistening. Inside is the bird, and he invites his friend over, and he's just saying, hey, check out my cage, check out my cage. It's very beautiful. But inside is a dead bird, and his friend says, but what about the bird? And he says, no, forget that. Look at my cage. And the friend says, your bird's dead. So the problem is that the guy became so obsessive over his big, beautiful cage with different jewels, you know, opulence, that he forgot to take care of what's inside. So we gave that example, and it was like immediately the whole room, all these corporate suits and fancy people just went silent, and they just kind of like, we got a few people to kind of get some attention. You know, we were trying to explain basic fundamental understandings of like servant leadership and whatnot. But the whole point is that we have to know who we are first to understand our mission. Otherwise, we're just aimlessly looking for some sense enjoyment. And that's not going to get us far without connecting it to Krishna. So again, although we may go through these steps, some of us are trapped within the womb. Sometimes there's miscarriages. Again, guna and karma. We have this understanding of previous lives, reincarnation. We have an understanding of karma, things that are not presented to us in the West. So we're at 21 minutes. As we have more of an understanding of how reincarnation works and karma works within the Vedic paradigm, then these things become easier to digest as well. So we now have a target. We now understand that this is no longer negative. This is just simply a reminder. So we'll go through. We have about, I think we started at 11:50. We have 8 minutes. The 7 opulences listed. So this is very, very interesting. And this, I was meditating on this too. This is what makes this process personal. So these are the feminine opulences. There's masculine opulences, and then there's feminine opulences as well. And men can have these, of course, and women can have these. It goes back and forth. So you have 7 opulences, which are described as feminine. Fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience are considered feminine. And some of the masculine ones would be like bravery or, strength, courage. But of course, there's women that embody those aspects more than men at times. But just generally speaking, these are considered feminine and coming from Krishna. So there's different examples we can give. We don't have a whole lot of time. But for example, when you think about fine speech, very general here. So when you think about speech, women have more of an ability to speak than men, right? This is even in regular culture, it's perceived that women generally are more in touch with their emotions and able to speak clearly about those and to identify those, and more willing to do that. And it's considered at times not so masculine to speak about your emotions, or considered taboo to cry as a man, or to really share that side of yourselves. And then it's a bit of a natural thing too for men. So this is just explaining kind of on a basic level of what Prabhupada's getting into here when he says that these are feminine opulences, right? So as far as patience is also considered, it's Shama, right? That's what it says, Shama, K-S-A-M-A. Also forgiveness. If you think about patience, what's more patient than having a child in the womb for 9 months, right? It doesn't get much more patient than that. I know I can't even fathom that. So that's another example of patience. When you think about good memory and intelligence, Prabhupada is explaining here in the purport that women, these are feminine opulences coming from Krishna. So we have to understand that, for instance, if we read something, there also needs to be an ability to apply that knowledge when necessary. So that's medha, that's intelligence. So we have to have that good memory along with that intelligence, and then that becomes what's stated as Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. So dadami buddhi yogam tam. So buddhi yoga, this is in 10:10 of the Bhagavad Gita, to those who are constantly devoted in serving me with love, Krishna says, I give them an understanding by which they can come to me. So you serve Krishna with love, he gives you with an understanding on how to approach him. So when we talk about good memory, good intelligence, buddhi yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness. So love is an action. If I keep telling my spouse, I love you, I love you, I love you, but then I'm just sitting around playing my PlayStation, or I'm just eating a bunch of potato chips on the couch, I'm not showing her much love and affection, and vice versa. So buddhi yoga is the process by which one gets out of the material world through action, right? So you have that good memory, but in order to cultivate that good memory, right, you have to put it into practice. So Krishna's telling us what he likes. Patram pushpam phalam toya. If one offers me a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. So we read that. It's very nice. But now we can offer Krishna a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water. And now that's an action. So this is considered a feminine opulence. And Krishna will empower us with that understanding on how to develop these further, especially through action. So this goes back to what we said earlier about Krishna empowering us by testing us too. So it's a really, really nice process. I'll go through another one. Let's see what else we have here. Steadiness, driti. There's a famous example about, if you think about steadiness, this determination, right? You think about, like, I guess you could say, Draupadi was very determined in making sure that she got her justice. So I don't know if anybody doesn't know who Draupadi is. I would say read the Mahabharata. She was married to the 5 Pandavas, Arjuna's wife. That was, and she was treated wrongly. And so due to her anger of how she was treated by the Pandavas' cousins, this whole war broke out. And you could consider her kind of being the foundation or the anchor of this war that took place. It was because of the way she was treated. And she was very determined in seeking that justice. There's another example of a mother sparrow who lays her eggs on the shore of an ocean. And the eggs were carried away by the big waves of an ocean. And so this sparrow, this mother sparrow, she became very distraught, and she told the ocean to return her eggs, but the ocean wasn't listening. So she started taking away drops of the ocean with her little tiny beak, and people were laughing at her, people or other birds, other sparrows were laughing at her. So the news of this bird and the activity were spreading throughout the universe. And then Garuda came. Garuda is a big personality, man bird. He's the carrier of Lord Vishnu. So Krishna carries Lord Vishnu on his back. It's like his spaceship. So he came to aid the little bird, and he quickly, the ocean decided to change his mind and return the eggs. So it was the determination for a noble cause that's praiseworthy, right? So the sparrow's courageous determination succeeded. So the point of the story is God helps those who help themselves. So to wrap things up, we have to do our part, right? And we have to be detached simultaneously, which is very difficult. And the way to do that is with support of devotees, of course, chanting, being fixated on Krishna through his holy names, and applying these lessons in a practical way, right? So if I am a mother and I have 2 children and I'm a full-time school teacher, then I need to see that Krishna has allowed these souls to come to me. These children are mine to take care of, but they're also children of God. They're spiritual souls that are forever attached to serving Krishna. So I have to do my best to help them grow spiritually. And I have to perform my duty and see that my teaching job is there to sustain all of this. I can't be neglectful of my job, my duty, or I can't be neglectful of my family. I have to see all of this facility as what Krishna has given to me. Or if I'm a big, famous Tesla motor guy or whatever, electric car guy, then I have to see that Krishna has given me this intelligence to have this brain where I can create rocket ships and different types of cars for everybody. So I have to utilize this in a way that's healthy for Krishna's environment on planet Earth. I'm giving an extreme example, but whether Krishna has given us billions or whether he's given us a few thousand, it all has to be utilized in Krishna's service. So this is what will help us apply these opulences and get out of this repeated cycle of birth and death. Because we've all got some opulence according to our guna and karma. So we have to utilize our memory, intelligence, patience, whatever it may be, in Krishna's service. So I hope that this was sufficient. It looks like it went over nearly 2 minutes, but I guess we'll do any sort of reflections or realizations, corrections, anything like that. I'll leave it open. I think I was told 10 or 15 minutes. So if anybody has anything they'd like to share, please do.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such an enlightening class and discussing the feminine qualities and explaining so nicely with stories and examples. So I'd like to open it to the audience on our Zoom and also here in person. Do you have any questions, comments, or reflections?
Has anybody, had difficulty trying to, put it in action? Like when you go to work, do you sometimes get stressed out and forget about Krishna? Has that ever happened to anybody? It's happened to me a few times when I get cut off in the road. I don't see Krishna as the guy cutting me off in the road, but anybody have any difficulties that they can relate to at a time where, maybe you forgot about Krishna and then you had to bring yourself back and get centered? Does that ever happen?
Yes, happens every day.
Yes, Prabhuji, we are facing this situation every day. Please give some advice about that.
Well, you're doing it right now. You just come together, it's so important, for many years, in San Antonio, we started off as a men's ashram. That kind of dissipated. Then we had these 2 houses. It was like, wow, it was super intense. You know, I could go on for all the stories. They were in the worst part of the city. And my wife and I were there. We had good programs, but it wasn't the right atmosphere. We'd worked with what we could. And then COVID hit. And then we went and we said, let's reboot. Let's re-strategize here, because we kind of got thrown into a situation. And then we were able to actually realize that, hey, we've been married. We didn't even know each other really. Well, we did, but it's just been service. So those 2 years, we kind of rebranded, re-strategized. And then we bought these houses that y'all visited. Some devotees, some of y'all visited our house a couple weeks ago. So my point is no matter what situation Krishna gives you, you keep chanting Hare Krishna and you keep going forward. And it's really nice. I've seen so many devotees in the past when we had our ashram. There was a bit of a transition, some issues. It happens. And I saw a lot of people come in and out, lose faith, move, go somewhere else because they felt it was better. But if you stay the course, then you get some really nice realizations. Krishna's testing, right? So it's like, imagine if you go to school to take your test and, you know, pop quiz. Y'all ever had pop quiz? So what would happen if the teacher came in and said, pop quiz, everybody? And then, you know, you just walked out of class and said, I'm not doing that. I'm scared. You don't get that understanding of how to be on your toes, how to be ready for something at all times. You know, there's this whole fantasy of thinking that spiritual life should just be blissful and sweet, and I should be floating on air, and I should just have like amazing scented perfume all over me and whatnot. But it's not like that. Like, Krishna doesn't want us to be comfortable in the material world. He wants us to go back to him. So therefore, these tests are reminders, you know. And one example of that is Queen Kunti, right? Like Queen Kunti, there's a really nice prayer. So Queen Kunti was the mother of the Pandavas, and they were exiled and kicked out of their kingdom. And they were being tried by their own family members. They almost got burned in a house. Of course, Krishna was always protecting them. They had Krishna with them at all times, literally, physically there. He would come and visit them during their exile, but they were tried so many times, a poisonous cake, a burning down house that they almost got caught in. But of course, Krishna arranged for them to always be protected. So, Vipara Shantu Ta Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagad Guru Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Apunar Bhava Darshanam. This is in Queen Kunti's prayers. She's just saying, I wish all these calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. Seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated birth and death. So we take from that example that it's a reminder. These triggers, right? This trauma that we all have in our regular lives, right? We've grown up in some difficult situations, some more than other, can easily get brought back. Those triggers, it's easy to get triggered, right? I was abused when I was a child. Now this person that is cutting me off in traffic looks like my abuser, or whatever it may be. You know, we get triggered in our daily lives. Or even if we're just having a bad day and our car breaks down and we're 30 minutes late to our job and they write us up and now we're on probation, or whatever it may be. These are ways for us to remember Krishna. They're set there. These struggles, these day-to-day struggles are opportunities, actually. I was watching a thing on Tony Robbins. Y'all know Tony Robbins? He's this big motivational speaker. This shows you what we could do. I mean, he's not devoted to Krishna, but he's definitely empowered. He charges people $5,000 to come to his seminar. And he has these big, beautiful hotels, and they're 6 days long. They stay in the hotels, and there are a lot of professional people there. But he creates an environment, right? And he has all this loud music coming on, and it's kind of like a mega church, but it's not so much a church at all. There's no religion. He's just giving really good therapy to people. So he'll bring one person up, and they'll say, oh, I'm struggling with my diet. And then he says, he breaks them down to where they can start crying and openly admit that they were abused as a child and they need to call their father now. So he has this really good psychological way of breaking people down. It's personal. So one of the things he says, and he has a lot of success, you should check him out, and we can see how we can Christianize that. We can have these seminars, people are suffering, where they can come in, and for some people, they need to spend $5,000. If it's free, they're not going to take it. So he brings these people in, and one of the things that he says a lot is that life is not happening at you, it's happening for you. So I take that and I go, wow, like these difficulties are happening for me. Krishna is allowing these things to happen for me. And Vatsal Prabhu was the one that kind of turned me on to him. Y'all should have Vatsal Prabhu speak sometime. He's amazing. And he's here with us too. So I take that concept of like these miseries, these difficulties, they're happening for me to grow. I'm going to go back to traffic because I get a lot of anxiety in traffic. It just I don't know why I think I'm more sensitive now, is that it's going to keep happening to me until I can start to react differently. You know, if I've had like, I almost got ran off the side of the road the other day. I did get ran off the side of the road by two 16-year-old kids. Then I blew my tire out. I was stuck in the road with a broken axle and a tire, and I had to go cook for the college kids in an hour, and I was behind, and it was like, oh my God. But I actually stayed calm the whole time as these kids were even like pushing me off, goofing around. And I realized like, this is too much for me to even battle. Like, I'm not even going to get frustrated with this one, because I'll just deplete all my energy for the rest of the day. And I just gave in, and then, things got worked out. So that was a really intense kind of understanding to see that it was Krishna's arrangement. Krishna's the most extreme, so he can put us in the most extreme circumstances, and we just have to keep a poker face. Anybody else? Any reflections? I think we're...
I have one question.
Prabhuji, it's a nice explanation. It's very practical, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We have one question.
Sure.
In the audience.
Is that
I think in Zoom there was someone who wanted to ask a question. Maybe she can go ahead.
Okay. Who had a question on Zoom?
no, go ahead. It's fine. Thank you.
Okay, we might take your question afterwards.
So I am extremely happy to hear Prabhuji today, and it is lovely because I come from India and West Bengal specifically, where Mayapur is, and so hearing about Krishna, Mahabharata, and all of these are pretty nostalgic for me because I have been raised up with all of these stories, and so it is really beautiful to hear, and the way in a very practical way you tell us all of the explain all of these things was really beautiful. So one of the things that I wanted to share was this. I was last time when I came here, Shankar Prabhu told me about this idea, which I have been meditating over some time, about how the Krishna consciousness is a scientific process. It is very scientific. So what is really scientific about the Krishna consciousness? Why is this mantra called a Maha Mantra, and why there are other mantras too, right? So what is about it? And there are other religion. There is, like, every religion believes in their own God, and they think that is the supreme God, right? And so all of these things are there, and you start, when you think with an open mind, you start dwelling on this, that who is the greater God? Do we say that Krishna is the greatest of all, or do we say that Jesus is greatest of all? Or we kind of contemplate on all these ideas and philosophies, and there are for people who do not understand the supreme thing, the supreme design, where all different paths are leading to the same person, they are always fighting over each other, right? So the whole point is that it is important to believe in this whole idea and have this love for Krishna to even start going on this path. And it is only through this love that we can express and we can stay committed to this process. And the reason why the Mahamantra is important and it is important to chant, I felt, is because of the fact that we have these different oscillations in our brain, and there are these different oscillations which are driving us in every moment, and there are oscillations during our sleep, during our waking stages, and also during when we are meditating. And most importantly, there's this state which is called, the oscillations which are called theta oscillations. And these theta oscillations are activated when we are chanting, because we go into a more calmer state of mind where our brains are, where the different centers of our brain gets more connected to each other. And that helps us to connect to our spiritual selves much better, to who we are, to understand that. And that is the essence of chanting this mantra, because as we chant more and more, we realize that it is not about finishing the number of beads that are there every single time, or it's not that you win any competition by finishing, like if you do a lot of numbers, but it is about the feeling that you get when you're chanting these beads each time, and the state in which you are able to be. And this state helps us to and this state prevails through our day-to-day lives, day-to-day activities, and it helps us to make a better decision every single time that we are doing anything. And when we are tapping into this entire Krishna consciousness, where we are involving Krishna in our decisions, it always becomes a better decision. We are always thinking about Krishna before we are even uttering a word with someone else. And this helps us to lead a better life. So this is a few of my realizations that I had since I last visited here, and it has been a very nice and nice thing that I was able to join everyone. And I really want to thank all of you for conducting this entire sessions of this. And it's really been wonderful.
Wow.
So much.
Thank you. Two things. I like what you said about, you sound very convinced. It's amazing about involving Krishna in your decision. So two things. First one, very simple. Krishna doesn't say no. He never says no. He says, not now, yes, or I have something better planned for you. So that's one thing that can kind of help us. Second thing is everybody seems very enthusiastic and really understanding the potency of the Maha Mantra. Give it to others. So by giving it to others in a palatable way, it's personal. The mantra is personal. So one person may want it this way, another person may want it that way. If we get to understand these people and we spend time with them, we'll understand the best way to give to them. And sometimes we may have to tolerate certain situations that come up, but giving it to others. So the first is receiving it and then giving it to others. It's our duty now to give it to others, right? So we've been unchained, and we have to go out without pushing, without pressuring, without being aggressive, but sweetly as a representative of God, giving it to others. And it can be something as simple as a chocolate chip cookie, or it could be a smile or words that are very kind, just to get the ball rolling. And most people, even when Prabhupada was here, when Lord Chaitanya was here, personally, Krishna being here, God being here, some didn't take it with God being there directly in front of them, but still they got some benefit. So likewise, we have to be personal with people and try to share with whatever we know with them in a palatable way. So thank you so much for allowing me to share and reflect with y'all, and I appreciate it. Y'all are an amazing community. I hope that we can visit y'all. Please come visit us sometime. We have a Kirtan festival in April. We have Rath Yatra in July. You're always welcome. I have to get going now. We have to start preparing for our little Sangha here. We have a small little Sunday thing today. But thank you so much. Hare Krishna. And please let me know how we can
Krishna.
serve.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your time.
Hi.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Where are you speaking from?
San Antonio, Texas, Tejas.
Oh, it's not very far from us. We live
No.
in Houston.
Yeah, we'll make some enchiladas for y'all or tacos or something if y'all come. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for your blessing.
All right.
I will.
Okay, so now we're going to move to the last part of the program, which is Aarti. And please give us a moment to set up.